Well, welcome all, and hello, Rosie Stancer,
Hello,
who
Adam.
joined us, but who's joining us today not as our familiar PPG host, but in her real life role as polar and desert explorer. And this is for some of you who weren't here, the second PPG in a series of PPGs and other events related to the exciting expedition on foot and by camel that Rosie and her intrepid team are planning across Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. Joe, if you could put the map up on there it is. That's the triangle between Egypt and Israel, famously crossed by Moses, and empty ever since, really, except for small habitations of nomad tribes and an isolated and very beautiful monastery. The line marks the route, so from north to south. And that's what this team plans to cross on foot and camel. And Goldster is very proud to support this venture. And Rosie has promised to keep us up to date at every stage of the journey. Some of you may have seen already the amazing photographs and films which we've been putting up on our Instagram page of Rosie training. And that's fierce stuff. A month ago on PPG, we introduced her audacious plan, starting in the northwest, where the Suez Canal joins the Red Sea. Rosie and her team will cross one of the most inhospitable regions in the world in order to seek evidence of climate change and its effects on the lives of the local Bedouin. The intention being to report the findings at the United Nations COP27 climate conference, which is conveniently being held at the end of November at the tip of the triangle, Sharm el-Sheikh. It's where that red and blue line link. However, this program is really to introduce the team, an amazing team, which who we'll find out about. But I'm afraid before we do that, recalling the words of Robert Burns, the best laid schemes of mice and men go oft astray, I'm afraid I have to tell you that since last month, fate has stepped in and changed the game plan. Josh, can you put up the second map? This is a wider one, and you can see Sinai between Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. And you'll see the three colors there. The red zone at the top belongs to the Egyptian army. It's a no-go zone at any time. That's why the expedition was going to start at the southern end of the Suez Canal, where you see the red and the amber join. Because the amber region can be crossed with permission. The ordinary tourists, I understand, are discouraged. An expedition like Rosie's, with their expertise and local contacts, would have been fine, except just suddenly, in the last couple of weeks, the Egyptian army put a ban on anybody entering the amber area. The reason is the importance of the United Nations COP27 conference being held in the blue zone. Sorry, I called it the blue zone. It's actually green, the green zone, at Sharm el-Sheikh at the bottom there. And this conference is so important for Egypt and the world as a whole that the army oh dear, I've upset the dog. The army, I'm afraid, have decided that it's too important to risk anything. They don't want any embarrassing news of stray people getting lost in the desert. The amber zone has suddenly gone red. So that's it. No desert crossing allowed. But that's not the end of the story. Not with you lot, Rosie and her team, because there is a plan B, and Rosie has one, and I think perhaps it may end up even better than the original plan. So Rosie, can I hand over to you and tell you how you are going to deal with it? I mean, I recall you told me the words of General Eisenhower, who said that in warfare he hates plans and they never work, but planning is indispensable. What has been your indispensable plan which will allow it to go ahead?
But things never go according to plan. And Adam, well, first of all, hello everyone. Some of you, hello again. And I'm very pleased to be here with my team, Pom, Arabella and Lee, and a couple of dogs somewhere in Lee's gym, I suspect too. Adam mentions every stage of a journey, and that's exactly what we're talking about, because what a lot of people don't realize is what goes on before the first step is taken onto ice or sand. The journey, the life of an expedition begins long before that. And as some of you are aware, the life of this particular expedition, the crossing of the Sinai, has been going on for a good year. And therefore, you do come up against challenges before you even start. And some of them are the greatest challenges to overcome. And it's where a lot of people might fall down, but you just got to have the grit to get up and keep on going and keep the end vision in mind. And my team and myself really believe in the importance of this expedition, and having the privilege of going to a largely untrodden part of the world and finding out from the coalface, from the local communities, how their lives are being impacted, how they see their futures, and what possible solutions there could be. So what we've done is, in the words of the great businessman Sir John Timpson, we're exercising a bit of upside down management, because the military really quite rightly won't let us traipse through the alone in the wilderness, as Lawrence of Arabia would say. We're doing everything the other way round. And referring back to that route map you saw earlier on, we are actually going to get into our starting boxes in Saudi Arabia, in Neom. So our first leg is going to be fact finding. It's going to be cultural, it's going to be academic. All the expedition to a degree is academic, but we are going to be looking really close up about this new futuristic, sustainable region called Neom, which we can explain some more about later if you're interested. Then we will cross from Saudi Arabia into COP27, where we are scheduled to talk on the 9th of November. And without any bias or judgment, we will share our findings on Neom, bearing in mind that Neom is quite a controversial development. It's all very conceptual at the moment, but one of our parts embedded in our expedition mission is to always find a positive message as well. So from COP, we will then return very briefly to the UK, where you'll probably see me over Christmas doing another interview. Before mid-Feb, we then cross back to the Sinai and make our full crossing as originally planned, with our permits, because all the jitters about security over COP will have subsided. And the findings that we make on that journey will be stored into our library, our legacy, because to remind you that this is only part 2 of a desert trilogy, and we'll be carrying that forward into part 3 and very probably another COP too. So that's my explanation of where we are on Plan B, and I believe that Plan B is the new improved version because it affords us much more time and a wider platform to share what we learn. So we'll have more time in Neom and we have more time on Sinai. So all for the better.
All for the better. That's very exciting. And also the desert crossing will take place in I think you said February. Is that so? So we will
Correct.
see you on your camels and your walking.
Correct.
I mean, and also I hope too that we can sort out communications to an extent that we can, when you are in Neom, perhaps we can have another talk, or I think it would be really good if we can keep in touch.
I think
Because I think everybody will be in, yeah. But I mean, I think we've got an exciting 4 months ahead of us now. It was only 2 months, so it's double, so it's even better. And just to repeat, Goldster is behind this expedition more than ever. We hope soon to come up with a new program of PPGs and bulletins to make sure you're going to be up to date at all times. And now my apologies, deep apologies, to the very patient team who've been waiting in the wing to be interviewed, which is what this show is all about. So perhaps if it's possible, Joe, can you put all of us on? There we are. There we are. And perhaps I could, Rosie, would you like to introduce them, or shall I?
Thank you. Okay. Looking at the screen to my right is Arabella Dorman, our expedition artist, and also probably a writer too, we decided just a few moments ago. Nothing like being the boss, so you can just tell people what they're doing. And behind her you can see one of our wonderful paintings, and Arabella very briefly is going to do the visual record, which is a really important part of the legacy of the expedition, painting as we go, and that will temper the pace as well. And then beneath me, so to speak, I have the deputy expedition leader, Pom Oliver. Some of you will be familiar with her name. She has already been on many polar expeditions together with myself, and of course the part 1 of the desert trilogy, the Aral Crossing. And then in the black and yellow in the torture chamber is Lee Watts, who's not just the expedition coach, but we can't really shake him off. So he's coming with us as well on this expedition, and he, Lord save us, is in charge of med and comms, which of course is very important to a major sponsor like Goldster. And so that's my team, and I'd love each of them to talk a little bit about the things that I skimmed over. For instance, I think that there'll probably be people out there who don't really know what Neom is, for instance.
Yes, I mean, thank you, Rosie. Perhaps we can go down the order and start with, you're the leader. Let's talk to the deputy leader, Pom. If we could start with you. I mean, I looking at the notes you're sending to me. 70 years old, working full time in property development and property letting. Well-known film producer, still involved in development of film and TV projects. And then in your mid-40s, after a career in film, you joined the 1997 Penguin Polar Relay to the North Pole. And then you went to the South Pole, actually, and that's where you met Rosie. And this life of adventure has taken over. And yet you're still in the property business. Amazing. How do you do it?
Well, you know, there are 24 hours in the day, and one wants to I can't think of anything worse than sitting around doing nothing. It just wouldn't suit me. Some people are really good at it, and I admire them, but not me. Also, it's very nice to earn some money. You know, there are quite a few elements.
Yes,
What
yes.
you do
Well,
in expeditions.
Yeah,
I
don't do
don't
it for
pay
that,
them,
that's true.
everyone.
Yes, that's why you have to go back and earn some money.
I have to say to everyone out there that with taking my cap off to Pom and your seniority age-wise, is that she's as fit as fit.
well, yes.
Well,
I don't believe.
I'm not sure Lee would agree with that, but thanks to him and LW Fitness, I managed to creep the bones together.
You do that, Paul, I'll give you that.
Praise
I
indeed.
did that one. Sorry.
But you've gone from snow now to desert. I mean, have you found it different? I mean, you've done one very successful trip across the Aral Sea, which I mean, for those who don't know, the Aral Sea was in Central Asia, and over the years it's just been depleted of water. And Rosie and Pom walked across it, or pulled their gear across an empty sea, raising all sorts of problems for sort of showing us what the world is doing.
Well, yes, it was very depressing. But to come back to your earlier point about going from polar regions to desert, I mean, really the polar regions are frozen deserts. So
Yes.
in a way, it's quite similar. And also you are stressing the body. Either it's absolutely freezing cold or it's sweating hot. Either way, it's largely uncomfortable. But I think, well, for me, I just love the space. I love the skies. Of course, it's never silent, but they're different sounds than what we live with, certainly in this country. But I think that the continuing thread from the ice to now on this Roses trilogy is really the aspect of water, in that we have the frozen continents shifting, melting water, rising sea levels, and then we compare the deserts. So the Aral Sea, of course, is now the newest desert on Earth, from two rivers being dammed in the late 60s by the Russians for growing cotton. For ourselves, let's face it, we Russians are not the only people who buy a t-shirt many times and throw it away and buy new ones. So it is our way of living that we all have to look at, so that the Aral Kum is now a shocking place of nothing, of people whose lifespans even 10 years ago were only 64. Now it's 51. And now we are going forward to Saudi, which of course is really looking at how it can change these problems. So they are looking at NEOM, and I think it's very interesting. I mean, people can easily say, of course, that it's not a green city. Of course, it's a city that's being built on sand. So they are going to be using concrete and certain other things, but they are making a huge effort to try and address these problems. And I think it is really interesting. It's something that everybody else will be able to look at and learn from, and hopefully move forward. So it's great privilege really for all of us to be able to see and learn and inform what we see over the next few weeks and months.
I hear you. In China at the moment, there used to be two great lakes, which were, if you like, the lungs of the Yangtze River, which are now just dry.
Yeah.
And for the paddy fields, but the paddy fields aren't very good because there's no water there anymore. It is tragic thing across the world. And I think this is, are you in the team? I mean, what is your sort of role? Is your role very much the information collector, or
Well, I said that is one of my roles. I do collect sort of the psychological aspects of everybody, because it's very interesting for people to view how, you know, one's thoughts are each day. It changes, but also I'll be photographing and with our translators asking questions of the Bedouin and the local people who we are with, as to their perception of change, or indeed their understanding of how things were for their fathers or even grandfathers to today, and how they're coping with these changes for themselves and the animals.
Fantastic, fantastic. I mean, I think we'll get back to these questions in as we go along. I mean, do you have any personal sort of ambition for this particular trip? I mean, is there something which appeals, which is, or
personally, it's getting to the end, but no, I've been carted off in an ambulance. No, I think if we can, I think any information, I think what Rosie and I learned from the Aral Kum expedition was the appreciation of people gleaning information from us, which, and quite often I don't think we even knew how much information, or the quality and interest of the information that we were being able to provide, and that's quite exciting to be able to do that, and I think it makes one learn that oneself might think that something isn't of important, but actually it will be probably to someone.
I mean, particularly the people who live there now and see their lives change.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah. I think we'll come back. Can I go on to Arabella? Because Arabella, you are also doing research, but it's not quite in the same scientific way. I mean, in your note to me, I thought what you wrote was very powerful. If I could quote it, my interest is in the human story. It is the individual stories that tell the bigger ones so much more powerfully, what unites us rather than divides us. And you are an artist, and behind you is a wonderful picture of, I assume, Afghanistan, where you were a war artist. And some of our audience may remember when Arabella came on earlier this year to talk about her war paintings, and they were incredibly moving, and I found some of them absolutely, I mean, I hadn't seen the war in Afghanistan until I saw your paintings, Arabella. It was because you were touched, and not just the soldiers, but also the people who lived there. So now you're going in to do this itself. It's not a war, but maybe it's another sort of war. Do you see yourself wearing the same sort of hat as you go into paint what you?
Well, I think I paint with the same emotional palette, really, because my interest is in what makes us human and how humans are responding to our changing times. And, you know, I find war, people call it the theatre of war, because it reveals certainly the worst of humanity, but also I'm sure Lee would agree with this because he has much more experience than I do in Afghanistan. War can also reveal moments of startling, profound beauty in terms of courage or sometimes sacrifice or comradeship, certainly professionalism and a sense of duty and looking out for each other. So it's been an incredible privilege to be in places like Afghanistan and Iraq, and in more recent years working with refugees and bearing witness to the devastation in Syria and ongoing in Gaza and places. So taking that into somewhere like the Sinai, I see as a natural continuation in that I'm really exploring what the Bedouin way of life is and trying to document traditional things from the past. This is thousands and thousands of years of human existence that perhaps is going to be wiped out in the next several decades.
Yeah.
And I think it's up to us, it's our duty, all of us, to try and record, to reveal those stories before they're lost to us forever. And I'm really interested in perhaps the traces that go back through the roots of humanity and history and those traditional ways of life that will then carry us on into the future. And whether I can paint that, I mean, I never go with a prescriptive idea of what I'm going to paint or how I'm going to respond. It is very much what I learn along the way. So I'll be the one on this expedition that will be probably putting the brakes on as I see more and more fascinating routes and stories to go down and explore. And I know that Lee, Rosie and Pom will want to be galloping ahead and learning more, as I'm saying. Can we stay still and try and explore in greater depth, perhaps, some of the more subtle aspects of this? And that's why it's so thrilling that we can go to Saudi in a way first. It was very disappointing when we heard the news that we weren't going to be granted these permits. But actually, I think it makes us look at it from a different angle, which is always really instructive. And it perhaps slows the narrative down, which is really where we should be coming from. This is a huge, huge thing that we're taking on in terms of concept, as well as physical challenge.
I think so. And you're creating things and you're actually writing things. And so this will give you more time to consider. I do think that this is when I saw the list of your participants, I thought it was genius actually that you were there, because I think on scientific expeditions, you don't often get people investigating the soul of countries, which I think
it's an amazing thing visually to be able to witness and record some of the wonders of this world while they're still there, and to record them for posterity's sake. And those will be some of the lessons that we will take forward into a future and therein find some solutions, one hopes.
Yes. And it's do you have you in your wartime, I mean you must be in many stressful situations, but have you done, thinking forward to next February, have you done the long sort of trek across the desert that Rosie and Pom have been doing?
Sadly, although I really had trained and planned to join them during the Aral Sea, family circumstances, I had to cancel it at the last minute, which was a huge disappointment. But I'm sure I'm not nearly as fit as Lee would like me to be. So he's got a bit more time to now brutalize us.
Nobody is, Arabella, don't worry about it.
Don't worry.
I'm terrified. You just have to look at that torture chamber in the background there. Don't go near it. But I have had experience in the desert. I actually had a big exhibition in Oman back in 2004. I was living on and off out there for a couple of years, and as Pom said, and I know Rosie feels, I feel very at home in the desert in a sort of uncomfortable way. It's a place, why historically and through all the religions do people go into the desert to find themselves? There's something that we dig deep within ourselves. It forces us in a sort of existential and spiritual way, I think, to search on a different metaphysical plane. That's all getting very philosophic though.
Well, I've always felt that. I did at university. I did my paper on Lawrence Moravia, and of course the 7 pillars of wisdom. It's all about that. It's all about that.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's well, I mean, do you think are you still going to go back to, I mean, there must be what we read in the papers every day is what's happening in Ukraine. Are you thinking of, after all this, looking at other wars, or
I have been looking at the devastation in Ukraine very closely. My two children, who are 10 and 12, very gravely came down one evening and asked me to make a promise, hand in hand. And they said, please, Mummy, promise me you're not going to Ukraine. There was very little I could say in the face of that. And then it made me think, what would I be going to Ukraine for? This is the most covered conflict, sadly, in the history of mankind, by definition. My paintings would just be a reiterance of what I think the world is largely feeling. I think the fascination and the beauty of this trip with Rosie and Pom and Lee is that we're going to somewhere that hasn't been trodden, that is unexplored, and yet has been trodden over thousands of years by so many incredible and extraordinary people.
Yes, indeed.
And to try and reveal some of that, I mean, it's trying to look for the hidden wonders in the quieter or more unseen parts of the world, and to give a voice perhaps to the voiceless. And the Bedouin do not have a loud voice on the world stage,
which is what
many minority groups who are suffering at the hands of climate change.
Which is what you've been doing all along, I think, and I mean, that's the power of your paintings. It's fantastic.
I think, Pom, I think, Pom, you'd agree that it is those small individual stories that really do tell the bigger picture, and collectively, if we can visually and record their stories, very quickly we will build a bigger picture that we can hopefully then share.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah. Well, I think introduction nearly over. Everything's pointing to you now, Lee, and your wonderful gymnasium, which I think well, certainly Rosie once told me is the best in England. Is that so?
I wouldn't say that. It's the best kept secret in Britain, probably.
Oh, that's even better. That's even more valuable. Lee, tell us about yourself. I mean, I gather you were a soldier in Afghanistan. Any other theatres you were in? I mean, what? So you've also seen the hardships which Arabella's been talking about from perhaps the other side. I mean, from another dimension. I mean, it's how much is, what am I trying to say is you have come back from the wars and created this wonderful gymnasium, sort of creating health. You're now leaving that to go to on a trip for others. What's your motive in this?
My motive is to support Rosie, Pom, and Arabella, obviously, on the trip that they're going across, like they've stated there. What Arabella's looking for, what Pom's looking for, and what Rosie's looking for. Yeah. My main part and parcel of the expedition is to ensure that Rosie gets what she needs when she's obviously out on the desert, to provide communications to yourself when needed. When Pom needs to be live with comms, or Pom needs, to sort out maybe a blister or something like that, or a little blister on her foot, then I'm there to supply the support for those guys. I predominantly, I'll be completely honest here, Adam. I like to be the grey man to Rosie, because obviously Rosie, Pom, and Arabella are the main characters. I just like to see myself as that support crew, and Rosie and Pom will both tell you. I like to stay that grey man, just for reasons being, I've done the Northern Ireland, I've done the Iraq, I've done Afghanistan, I've done the Falklands, I've been to Oman.
Oh my goodness.
Various other places, and I've done a lot and I've seen a lot. Yes, I'm probably, I'm sorry to say this, lady's the youngest one there by a couple of years. You know, I've been to war twice. I've got 2 rosettes. I've got various medals. You know, I've done a lot of stuff, but I'm predominantly here now. You know, I left the military and I served, you know, the late Queen, for, you know, the Queen and country. And now I'm out in the big wide world. It is a, you know, it's a scary place, but to be part of something, to me, is like being back in the military. This group of ladies allow me to be part of something that's big. So to me, it's more about supporting both, you know, Rosie, Pom and Arabella on what they want to achieve in such a great expedition.
I think they're very fortunate in having you. I mean, because I mean, it's essentially, I love your title, by the way, Med and Comms, but actually it's a much bigger one. I mean, it's security, and it's actually making sure things work, and it's safety, and it's a guarantee that you being there, I think, would be, I think everybody should have somebody like you behind that, and does, and it's the unspoken thing which is so wonderful, really. I mean, this is a wonderful team you have, Rosie.
It is, and I'd like to just interject on Lee's statement there, that although he might be the sort of the grey man, not part of the main team, he is very much one of the main characters out of us all.
You can't wriggle out of it.
Can't wriggle out of that one.
You can't do that.
And, you know, as they say, the sum of the total parts is greater than the individual units, and we all, as team members, we're together as a team because we all have different strengths, and we all need each other. You know, as much as I hope that we'll all support each other over our weaknesses, which I won't go into detail at the moment, or not mine anyway.
But I mean, I must say, I'm incredibly impressed by what Rosie's told me about everything you know you've been doing. You're a sort of safety net, and how lucky that.
I think it all started off when I first left the military. It all started off with an individual called Alan Pearson, which was Rosie's fitness trainer at the time. Remember Alan, Rosie?
Ex-military as well.
Yeah. And I got introduced to Rosie through Alan, and I'd been out of the military for days and weeks, from landing back in Afghanistan, back into the UK, and then within weeks I'd met Rosie, and Rosie got introduced to a fresh face and an interesting fitness training session up and down a rugby pitch, eh, Rosie?
Yeah, you were still post-war frazzed, so to speak, which was perfect training for the environment that I was going into, because I was going into one of nature's own war zones, the Arctic, where you can compare many things to the violence of the ice, the noise, the shock, the need to move quickly, you know, and getting inured to the bumps and the pain and the turns and the hunger, all that, as much as the beautiful parts as well. So it was really perfect, specific training. And now you're getting us all into shape for a slightly different environment, but desert again. And a lot of it's about endurance as well, isn't it, Lee?
It's definitely about the endurance side of stuff, yes. And obviously having, I have Pom and Rosie come and see me when they can be the other sides of the country. And obviously we're going to start training with Arabella on the Zoom sessions. As everybody knows, we all got locked down, and Zoom become an important part of training for a lot of people, but not just the training part of it. It was also part of the well-being for individuals when we had this big lockdown period. So, the Zoom sessions weren't just about training individuals. The Zoom sessions were also, as one of the ladies say that I trained, it was the 4th rescue service of the UK, because they saw the fitness training and the gym itself as a way of being in a different place and taking themselves out of what was actually going on at the time. So that hour every other day or twice a week or 3 times a week become their go-to, their it's like Rosie comes in and she's with us twice a week. Pom comes and visits me twice a week. So it's their like go-to, and it's their time where they don't have to think about everything that's going on. It's their time. So as Zoom is and the training, it's not just a fitness training, it's a wellness. And Arabella, how do you agree on that one? Your thoughts on that?
Trying to keep it up in your absence, Lee. He'll be telling you I'm doing everything wrong.
No, we'll look after you. You'll be fine. But
I think that your point, though, Lee, of sort of the mental well-being side is extremely important, because I think particularly on expeditions and things, people, one just thinks, oh, fitness, get fit. But actually, the mind is so important. The mind can either get you from A to B, doesn't matter how fit you are, or it can drop you. So I think that comfort level is hugely important, and in normal life, apart from anything else. I mean, just a walk down the road and sit under a tree will do one so much uplifting to one's mood compared to staying inside.
completely agree.
Yeah, it's absolutely true, the old saying that well, in polar expeditions, but I think in all expeditions and life in general, that it's over 50% mental and the rest is physical in a tough challenge.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, this is very much why you're on this particular program at the moment, in a sense. I mean, we call it PPG, which is Purpose, Passion and Grit. And it's part of an organization which looks after well-being. But the main part of well-being and doing anything is the purpose and the desire to do it, we felt. And this is something which all of you in your different way, you know what you want and you do it, which is fantastic. And achieves. I mean, you are. There's a reason why Goldster is very much behind you all in this event. We have an audience around us now who perhaps will have some questions. I'll look and see in the chat. I mean, Rebecca Stack, awe-inspiring, making history with this scientific expedition. Hope you're all super proud of yourselves. Will be amazing achievement, and thank you for doing this. And she thinks, Lee, you're undervaluing yourself. You're the main man. No.
There you go.
Don't tell him that. Don't tell him that.
It's okay. We're finished now. You can leave.
Rebecca, would you like to come and would you like to unmute yourself and say more about that?
I think she's on mute.
She is.
Yes, are you on mute?
Sorry, I was just going somewhere quieter because my little 5-year-old is off school. Yeah, no, I wasn't being disrespectful at all to the ladies. I was just trying to say that I think endurance prep is key to the success of the expedition, and I think I don't like the term grey man, because there's nothing grey about Lee. Everybody's full of vibrance and colour. Everybody has vibrance and colour, and everybody is a valued and vital part to this expedition. And I just think grey man doesn't. Sorry, it just hit a nerve with me because I don't like the colour grey. I'm all about rainbows. It's like my little girl's favourite colour is rainbow, that's what she says. So I'm all about rainbows and colour and vibrancy, and I think all of you are amazing. And I just thought Lee was like undervaluing himself by saying grey man.
I think, Rebecca, we should maybe call Lee the Rainbow Man.
Yes.
Wow.
Your expedition is
quite rainbowy.
Your expedition is adding hope to us all, isn't it? And
Yeah,
I think also we'd like, having to change the expedition in its format and things. It's also like, yeah, we're all having a bit of a tough time of it at the moment. And it's a sort of, in some small way, an illustration of, okay, so you get knocked down, you dust yourself down, get up and keep going.
That's one of my favorite songs from the Tron movie. If you knock yourself down, get back up again. Get back up again. Definitely get back up again. Sorry, I'm a big kid. Sorry.
Rebecca, Lee has a great military phrase. I'll probably get it wrong, Lee, won't I? But is it a modify, adapt, and carry on? Something like that.
Adapt and overcome will do, Rosie. Adapt and overcome. It's basically, Rebecca, with regards to the grey man, it's not a grey man. It's just, I like, we all work as a team, but it's just yeah. It's these ladies. These ladies. Rosie and Pom and Arabella. I'm in complete awe of them, but especially what Rosie's done and what Pom's done with regards to walking across the ice and that lot. And to me, that's like absolutely amazing. And to have a young lady like Pom come down and do the training that she does, to me, is like absolutely inspiring. Yes, I've come from a military background, but what these ladies have done to me is so inspiring. It's what drives me and inspires me to inspire people in the gym. So I have people to look up to. These ladies, because I look up to them in such a way that I do, inspires people that come into this place, because I have people like these to follow. So it's just an amazing group to be in. And if you could feel the atmosphere when everybody's together, it's just an amazing atmosphere to be in.
We paid him to say that, Rebecca, don't worry.
I don't think so. I think we're all feeling it. We're all feeling it. We're just...
I just think that when you're building anything, you've got to have the foundations, and I think each of you is a part of that foundation that has the stable.
Quite right.
Makes it stable, and without each of you,
I think at the basis of this expedition as well, going back to what you said, Rebecca, about living with hope, we are looking for hope, and we're looking for hopeful solutions, and we're trying to look for the good within the, you can look at this world through a complete aesthetic of despair, but there's always hope, and hope is what makes us human. It's, to quote Emily Dickinson, it's that little bird with feathers who sings and sings when there's no notes to sing to or something, and keeps on singing. And I think that's what we're trying to look for as well, is hope in these vast wildernesses and these empty places.
Keeps everybody going, hope.
Absolutely.
Well, it was key in lockdown, wasn't it? Hope. It was all about hope. Putting rainbows in their windows as a sign of hope. And I'm a huge fan of anything scientific, and any discoveries and any hard, grueling events people put them through. It's just heroes, all heroes. Amazing people. Well done, and thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Well, that was it. Is there anybody else in the audience who any questions? Please do. We are. I mean, it is recording, but this will not be broadcast unless you all agreed for it to be done so. But it's a sort of, I cannot think of anything more inspiring either than this. I mean, what a way this is a dangerous place you're going to be going to. In February now. I mean, are there fears about this? I mean, I suppose there are fears about the pole and stuff, but they're not human ones. Here, they're human ones, possibly. Is that something which you might worry you on your trip?
I think one has to take a responsible approach to it, and risks have to be calculated risks that are taken. And the one thing we don't do is be cavalier about risking the lives of the team, but also in so doing, putting other people into jeopardy. Those people who have to come and rescue one, or indeed our accompanying Bedouin as well. So you know, there was no point, for instance, in banging our head against that brick wall of the permits and going undercover.
No.
We could get into serious trouble. So all over the world now, there is the threat of danger from men and mankind, but you have to just take it with, you know, take it with measurement and judgment. And we are going to have a good communication system. We have a very carefully, assiduously worked out emergency evacuation planning system. We have direct contacts through to the people who can act and who have influence and who have knowledge in anticipation of any trouble. You know, top diplomatic as well as the military and defense people as well. So, and that leaves it to us to worry about putting our sleeping mats on scorpions and the like.
Camel spiders.
And camel spiders.
Camel spiders.
Lee will know about camel spiders.
That's the most frightening.
Camel kicks too.
They eat you alive. No, they don't. And my son looked up the 9 deadly vipers that will kill you within an hour if you get bit by one of them. He had great relish in looking up all the most disgusting, scary creatures in the Sinai Peninsula.
You mustn't do that till afterwards. You should see what I unearthed, so to speak, about the snakes that live in the Aral.
Oh God!
I think that I was
glad you didn't do that before we went.
All those bushes for shade.
Well, it's a sort of, yes, it's a...
There's no tree to climb up. There's nothing. Your legs won't carry you fast enough.
Arabella, I don't want to talk to your children before we go.
I don't.
No, I don't want any pictures. I don't want to see their
And
their
you're
research.
not allowed to throw camel spiders around like I happen to know that you did in was it Aztecs? I don't know where you were. Oh.
Oh, they're huge and enormous and disgusting.
You'll
But
have
don't worry, we
blow-up
got
ones,
Lee
I
there.
expect. Yeah.
And it's, I suppose...
Don't rely on him.
Is that a good thing?
And I suppose it's not as if you haven't got allies on the ground as well, because you've actually done a lot of diplomacy beforehand and found some very good, I mean, you local guides and a powerful general who is, or as I understand it, or with influence, son of a general,
Yeah.
who's got great influence with the Bedouin tribes, but Bedouin tribes don't always get on with each other. How is that a problem?
No, it's not a problem because they all acknowledge and respect each other's boundaries and territories. So in fact, as we travel over the Sinai, we won't be able to see or detect their tribal boundaries, but the Bedouin that we are traveling with will suddenly come to a halt, and they will not go any further until they can hand over to the next tribe whose territory we're moving ahead into. And that includes the camels, I might add. So we have to change our traveling companions.
No, I see. Oh.
And also our camels. And so
Oh, my
on and
goodness.
so forth 4 times.
Yeah.
Just as we get a handle on trying to get one not to bite us or kick us, camels have a mean bite. And
Lee knows that.
Yeah.
And Lee knows how to cope
He
with
knows
them.
how to treat that. Yeah.
He does.
Yeah, I did. That was an interesting one as well, to say the least.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go on and say about it, Rosie?
Hang in
Tell us
the
the
air
story.
that
Right.
Lee has a mean left hook.
Yeah.
We got introduced to the camels on our Oman expedition, stroke training package. Rosie, Pom, and one other had already got acquainted with their camels, so I basically got left with this bad camel. That's the easiest way to put it. And he was quite big, and he wanted to do what he wanted to do. And I did everything I could. I fed him. I give him an apple every now and then. I made sure he was comfortable. I did everything I could do. I talked to him. I tried to nurture with him. and he bit me on the head. And as he bit me on the head, he got the biggest uppercut I'd ever given in my life. It was like a scene out of Conan the Barbarian. And I just didn't know where to look. And all I said was, Rosie, did you just see that? I just chipped the camel. And then the next thing you know, I had this camel and he was the friend for the rest of the tour. It was great. It was awesome. So I know how to deal with camels.
Bonding, a good bonding story.
It was
So basically, our
bonding
training's
with camels.
our training's boxing, isn't it, Lee?
We have a question from Ruth. Ruth, would you like to open up? You're asking, what clothing will you wear? Do you have to be fully covered when Saudi?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, respect for the Bedouin as well, Ruth, and also respect for the environment and the sun. So cotton is the best material to wear, and we'll be well covered, including obviously our heads and necks and what have you, but we'll be covered. So cotton loose garments.
Ruth, any comments on that?
Ruth, when I was in Afghanistan, I traveled in a male Pakistani clothing, which is, as Rosie said, loose, very loose, baggy cotton, and it was wonderful. I mean, actually, some aspects of Afghanistan were freezing, but the desert, I believe, is going to be very, very cold at night and pretty hot in the day. So it'll be a question of layering as well, I think.
It's interesting, isn't it, Arabella? Because what will take us off guard is the body doesn't have time to acclimatize between the temperature swings from the daytime to the night. Wham, you're into the cold, you know. So,
and certainly when I was working in Oman and in the desert, you'd sleep and it would be about -5, 6 at night, really cold, and then you get up to paint at dawn, but by 8 o'clock it would be climbing up to the high 40s, and you just can't believe those temperature ranges can happen so quickly. And all you're thinking is, God, please make it warmer. And then when it's warm, you're thinking, oh, can't wait for the night.
So do you get all the camels to carry all your stuff? Because you must have to take blankets and things to wrap yourself up at night and so on.
Yeah, and in fact, the blankets and the padding on the camels who are carrying the load, that's what we'll sleep on at night when we unsaddle them, so to speak. So yes, they're for carrying the load, and some for carrying the load of the other camels, but we're actually walking.
So it's sleeping under the stars rather than tents on this journey. Yeah.
Yes.
Sue Townley has a comment. I mean, she's saying this late change of plan must have caused an enormous amount of replanning, almost like starting again. Well done for keeping positive. Sue, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, just to say, I think it's amazing that you've done it, you know, because you must have been months and months of planning, and suddenly it all changed. So I think I'd have dropped out at that point.
Sue, it's great that you appreciate that.
No, you wouldn't.
Very hard, and a lot of sleep was lost, and it was pretty challenging to have to go through the mills again. But we did, and we're back on track. So, you know, on a better course too.
Yeah, brilliant. That's good.
It was tough. Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, when you're, you know, initially when it happens and you're trying to get it back up on its feet, you're also battling emotionally because you're so shocked, disappointed, tired. You know, you feel mentally sort of heavy and turgid, and you just sort of got to keep battling through it. And
sounds like you got a really good outcome though, because you're doing it the other way around. Sounds like it's might be even better.
No problems, only solutions.
Excellent.
That's a very good way to end on. I mean,
sometimes happens like that.
sadly, we're coming to the end of this. I mean, perhaps we could just go, I mean, before we go round, I mean, perhaps just one comment from each of you. I mean, I can't think of anything more romantic than going off into it. I've crossed a bit of the Taklamakan, not as much as Rosie would do, and in much more comfortable circumstances, but I know the camel, and the Bactrians are horrible sometimes, and having to change them once you get there. I mean, is this a bug? I mean, is this a bug? Now you've got this sort of thing. I mean, you're doing a wonderfully worthy thing, but can you not do it? I mean, is this something you do and you're doomed to carry on forever? Each one in turn.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You gotta live. You gotta live.
You gotta live. You gotta live. You gotta live.
Keep on exploring. Keep on traveling. Keep on learning, and keep on giving back.
It's all in the name of Pom, really, as in apple, because it's like the Garden of Eden, I think. And you take a bite of that apple, and then that's it. I'm afraid.
It's all over the kindness.
Yes, you can't go back, can you?
It's a wonderful feeling. I think probably, like what Lee probably feels.
Sorry about the dogs.
A lot of people training and finding their integrity, finding themselves, and going for a goal it's that feeling that no matter how small or how big, how easy, how tough, whatever it is that you're doing, you are doing your bit for the rest of the planet and for other people, and it does all count when it all adds up together, and that's a good feeling.
Well, that's a wonderful way to sum up, but Lee hasn't spoken. What's your last word on it, Lee?
I'm just looking forward. I'll follow these ladies to the end of the earth, and
you heard that here first.
We'll quote you on that, Lee.
Wonderful. Well,
there you go.
I think on behalf of Goldster and all of us, good luck to you. I mean, Rosie, we'll stay in touch, and we hope we can get a bulletin out to everybody to tell how this slight thing is being resolved and how everything's improving, and we'll be back, I think.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you very much indeed, and for all of you ringing in.
Yeah, thank you, Goldsters.
Well, thank you.
Goldsters.
Bye.
Goodbye then.
Bye.
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 Bye. Thanks, team.